Let yourself be great. Unleash your soul. Take your passion, make it happen. That's the goal.
And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Responsibility. What does that really mean? It seems like it's a word that has lost some meaning, or maybe it's lost in translation in society today. But when we talk about being responsible, what do we mean? A lot of people think it's doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, we can go with that. But it's a little bit more than just doing what you're supposed to do. It goes on to the train of character traits that we've been talking about. And in this particular case, it means owning your role and what happens next. You have a role to play in life, whether it's a student, whether it's a parent, whether it's a coworker, a boss, a leader. And maybe many of us have different roles to play. But when we have that particular role, whatever it is that we're involved with, it's owning it and whatever happens next. It's the willingness to say, I have a part to play in this. My choices, they matter. The words that I say have consequences. How often do we see people just say whatever they want to say, realize that, that wasn't a good idea, then they try to backtrack it because they have consequences, especially politicians, right? They're good at that, or maybe celebrities. They're good at saying things, thinking that everyone's just going to praise them and fawn over what they have to say. And then they realize, oops, that was a bad idea, or that didn't go over so well. So then they try to backtrack because words have consequences. If you're a boss, your words have consequences, whether good or bad. A parent, a coach, a teacher, a student. What about actions? Responsibility and owning what happens next and owning your role means that my actions are going to affect others, other people. My excuses are not going to erase the obligations that I have. My failure. We don't like to talk about failure too much, do we? But sometimes we have to. My failure may explain what happened, but it does not remove me from the duty to respond. We're not talking about perfection. A lot of times we get caught up in this being perfected in whatever we do, right? We got to be perfected in what we do. Perfection. But that's not what this is about. Responsibility is not about perfection. We're still going to make mistakes. We're still trying to figure things out. We're still trying to see what is a good direction to go in. We still may forget things, get tired, overwhelmed, frustrated, discouraged. All those things might happen. But the difference is that responsible people do not hide behind those things forever. We're not going to hide behind them. If you're starting out a new business, a new company, right? You might have long hours. You might have many decisions to make. You might be responsible for people hiring and maybe even firing. And as you go through that experience, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, there's going to be some mistakes, there's going to be some good calls. But ultimately, that's the reality of it. And then we have to own up to it. Owning that role, and then what happens next. So we don't hide behind those things forever. We don't make excuses. We face reality. We make our corrections, and then we try to keep our word as much as possible. Think of it as a bridge between character and action. We have our character over here and who we are, who we like to be, the person we're working on, and then that moves us into action. And that's what responsibility is. A person may say they care, but responsible people asks then, what am I going to do about it? A person may say they're honest. A responsible person says, I will tell the truth at all costs. A person say, may they're committed. A responsible person says, can people rely on me when it's most important to them and perhaps maybe most inconvenient to me? A person may say they're mature. A responsible person asks, do you own your part without blaming everyone else? Or do I celebrate my part and not take credit that other people did their part well too? So that's where responsibility is, where the values we have become visible. How often is that combination mixed up? Our values become visible. We try to hide our values a lot of times, not because we're ashamed of them. Well, maybe some are, because our values might not be the same as society, what society says is acceptable. But that's what it comes down to. It's owning the role we have and then what comes next. And it's the bridge between character and action. And then it's our values becoming visible. That's what responsibility is. So if we really want to know or judge somebody, you can look at those three things. Do they own the role that they have? And then whatever comes next. Are their values visible? And then based on their values, does that character that they have, how does that bridge with action? Because we can have character lack action and become irresponsible. So what does responsibility really mean? It means ownership. Ownership means you stop treating your life like something that only happens to you. You start recognizing that while you cannot control everything, you are still responsible for how you respond. And that's one thing we've lost in society today. I mean, you could pick any news headline that's out there, and there's always going to be somebody that does something where they shouldn't be. Take a look at all the ICE protests, for example. Now, you can debate and argue that all you want. That's not the avenue I want to go down right now, but we'll use it as a quick example. There are some people that probably shouldn't have been in situations that they put themselves in. Bad things happen, and yet they don't take responsibility for their actions. And that could be in any number of things that we do. So we start recognizing that while we can't control everything, so you can't control how ICE is out and about, you can't control how this political party is backing certain characters or certain politicians. You don't like the way that these people are doing their business. My neighbors are running their lives, whatever it is. You can't control that, but you can control how you respond and then ultimately own that response and what comes next. Your character bridges to action. Your values become visible. And then you got to take a look at it from the perspective of reality, I guess. For example, you didn't choose your background. You didn't choose certain hardships. You really can't choose how other people treat you. Unexpected losses, maybe unfair situations, painful experiences we go through. Sometimes we don't have a choice in that. It just happens. Think about all the hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, just natural disasters, flooding. We can't control any of that. But yet how we respond would show our responsibility. Or what about losing somebody? Life and death. Maybe that unexpected loss was someone with a DUI, someone who was driving drunk. How is our response going to be toward them? So again, we can nitpick and go over each little experience, but just think of the big picture. How do you respond to those unfair situations, those painful experiences, those certain hardships, your background? We didn't choose our parents. Some of us have great parents. Some of us not so great parents. How do we respond? Responsibility says I may not have chosen this situation, but I still have to choose my response. What's that response going to be? See, and that's where it becomes powerful because responsibility does not deny pain, does not deny the existence that whatever's happening or has happened hurt. It refuses to let that pain become permanent. And it refuses to let that pain become a permanent excuse. Irresponsibility says, because this happened to me, I'm no longer accountable. That is huge in society today. Something happened, therefore, I'm not accountable for my actions. I was abused as a child, so therefore, I should get off the hook for domestic violence. My mom took drugs when I was in the womb. Therefore, I should get off because of that reason. I didn't have loving parents growing up. Therefore, I should get off. Responsibility out the window. And that's what irresponsibility says. Because this happened to me, I am no longer accountable. However, responsibility says, because this happened to me, I need wisdom. I need healing. I need accountability. I need discipline. And I need better choices moving forward. There's a big difference there. Because this happened to me, I need wisdom. I need healing, discipline, better choices moving forward, and perhaps accountability. And that accountability might be a support group, might be some friends to talk to, might be a therapist, might be whatever. Just someone to talk to. Because this happened to me, I need wisdom, healing, discipline, and better choices moving forward. Responsibility besides ownership means reliability. Responsibility is not only about big moral decisions that we have to make, it's also about everyday consistencies. It's one of the clearest signs of responsibility, that is reliability, because it shows that your word has weight. How much weight does your word have? Does your word have any weight? What you say is what you do, or what you say is what you intended? Two different things. A responsible person doesn't need to be chased around constantly, called on the phone, tracked down. Where are you? Are you going to do this today? Are you going to come through? They don't always need to be reminded. They don't have to carry the burdens of their disorganizations, or they do not make others, I should say, carry the burdens of their disorganization. Responsibility says, you can trust me with this. When I was working at a radio station in LA, one of the obligations that I had, one of the job duties, was to get guests on the show. And when I was working for this Christian talk show, Frank Sontag show, one of the people that I would get on was, I got on Nabil Quresh. He's no longer with us. He was the Muslim that then became a Christian. Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus was one of the main books that he wrote. And I remember I'd call him up. I mean, we booked him out 3-4 months, 5 months, because he was very busy. And I'd call him up every often, or maybe send him an email. Hey, are we still good? Are we still good? When he finally came into the studio, I remember we're riding up the elevator. I went downstairs to get him. We're riding up the elevator. And he asked me, why did you keep asking if I'm going to be here? I told you I was going to be here. That was my word. And I told him, well, just to be frank, a lot of people give us their word and then they bail. They just don't show up, or they have to cancel at the last minute. And he was like, yeah, that's too bad. And that would happen a lot. A lot of people, a lot of responsible people, a lot of people that are prominent pastors and others give their word that they're going to be there, and then they won't. In the sports world, when I was at sports talk radio, athletes all the time would bail. They wouldn't even pick up the phone. We had arranged for an interview at a certain day and time. No show. Never hear from them. So again, whatever it is, you can argue whatever that is. But in this particular case, Nabil Quresh thought that was really extreme, that people would do that, and that I would have to be in a situation to reach out every couple of weeks just to confirm that we were still on, because he gave his word and he felt that he did not have to be chased down constantly. He did not need the reminders. There was no disorganization in him. He said, you can trust me with this booking that you made. Pretty rare. So are you someone that will show up to your commitments? Are you one that will follow through, or do you have to be chased down? Is your disorganization a burden to somebody else? Do you show up when you say you will? Do you finish what you say you're going to finish, and maybe even finish on time? Or at least have clear communication if perhaps there's going to be delays? Do you return calls? Do you pay what you owe? That's all about responsibility. Do you apologize when you are wrong? Again, do you meet the deadline? Do you take care of what has been entrusted to you? Not what's been given to you, not what you're required to do, but what has been entrusted. Someone has trusted you with this. Do you take care of that? Whatever that might be. Besides ownership and reliability, responsibility means accountability. If you notice, there's a couple of abilities in here: accountability, responsibility. Accountability is the ability to answer for your actions without running, hiding, blaming, or manipulating the story. See, a lot of this of what we're talking about, if you watch TV, the media, social media, the outside world, the influence of society, it is the antithesis of all this. People run, they hide, they blame, they manipulate. They manipulate the narrative when things go bad. Happens all the time. People don't take accountability, so they don't have responsibility. And quite frankly, society doesn't really require accountability from people. So therefore, responsibility just slides away. A responsible person says, I was wrong. I should have handled that better. I missed the deadline. I hurt you. I made a poor decision. I need to fix this. I understand why you're upset. You see, that kind of honesty is rare because many people want the benefits of trust without the burden of accountability. If you've been following us for the last few podcasts, we've been talking about these different character pillars and the benefits of trust without the burden of. The benefits of blank, fill in the blank, without the burden of something. In this case, trust and accountability. They always want that, whatever it is. They want the trust without whatever comes next. They want the love without whatever comes next. They want the reward without the work. There was a lot of times in radio where things would go wrong. Just the nature of the beast. Like I said, guests won't show up. Ideas didn't work out. Topics flopped. It was the nature of the beast. It was the ebb and flow of radio. But one of the things that really I found amusing in a irritating way was that management always thought whenever something went wrong, management would get upset. Okay, whatever. Finally, I had to just say, and I've said this a couple times to a couple different PDs, I finally said, hey, my intention isn't to sabotage the station or the show. We took a risk, we took a chance at something. Big risk, big reward. It didn't work out. Whatever. It's not like it's intentional. Just relax, dude. So sometimes we have to take things in moderation and realize that, okay, yeah, it was wrong, but I own up to it, but these are the reasons why. We took a risk. Didn't work out. We tried to get a big guest on. They didn't show up. Why? I don't know. I've called 800 times. They don't pick up their phone. I'm not there to pick up their phone with them. Whatever. Yeah, we tried this promotion. It didn't work out. Okay, whatever. It's not like we tried to sabotage the situation. So yes, we do know that there are times, is the point, where things don't go well. And that's just that. Okay, didn't work out. Let's go back to the drawing board. But what we're talking about here is the accountability of things that we've been entrusted that we should take care of, that we need to take care of. And be honest about it. Be honest about the benefits of trust with that burden of accountability. When we talk about trust and responsibility, even though they're connected, a lot of people don't look at it that way. They think of it as two independent things. When people see that you can own your mistakes, they're more likely to trust you, and that trust grows because they know that, okay, sure, we can trust them in the good things, but what about the bad things? What about the things that went wrong? Okay, they own up to the mistakes. So now our trust grows in them because we know good or bad, they're going to tell us the truth. Good or bad, we know that we can trust them with whatever it is that they've entrusted us with. So a person who never admits wrong is not strong, they're unsafe. Did you catch that? A person who never admits wrong is not strong, they're just unsafe. So keep that in mind. Responsibility means stewardship. Ooh, that's a big word. What does that mean? It means that taking care of what has been placed in your hands. You've been given something. You need to take care of it. That's stewardship. It could be your family. It could be something from work. Maybe your students. Maybe your finances. Maybe your health. How much of a steward or a good steward are you from your health? Maybe your time. Is being a good steward of time scrolling through social media? That's a question you have to answer. Maybe who you influence and who influences you. Your words, your opportunities, your talents, your community. Whatever's been placed in your hands, how do you take care of it? That's something you have to answer. Stewardship means that you understand that some things are not just yours to use, but they're yours to manage as well. Think of financial advisors. They've been entrusted with somebody's money, and now they need to not only hold on to it in the bank, but they need to now invest it, manage it, make good decisions, and grow it. And good people will do that. And then on the opposite side, you get the Bernie Madoffs and others that collapse it. But when you have stewardship, you're going to take what's been given to you and manage it. A parent, responsible for shaping a child, not just controlling it. You're going to instill your values into that child, not just feed it and make sure it lives. You're going to teach it to be nice, not to hit. Don't take things that don't belong to you. Wait patiently, be polite, manners, all those things. That's stewardship, managing your child. A teacher, responsible for helping students grow, not just delivering information. We could sit up there in the front of the classroom and give them information. Did they get it? Do they know it? Do they understand it? Did they learn it? Well, that's where the managing comes from. Maybe you give them assessments. Maybe you have them repeat it back to you. You do activities, exercises, other lessons to see if they've learned it, right? A coach, they need to manage the game, the players, develop them. You can't just sit back, put a lineup if you're a manager in baseball, say, okay, this is when you're batting, this is your position, go play. No, you're going to manage the game. You're going to develop what's going on. Just like a leader is responsible for the people, not just the results. In fact, when you are responsible and you manage and you develop the people, the results a lot of times improve, wouldn't you say? A friend is responsible for loyalty, honesty, and care of that friendship. If the friendship is one-sided, it's probably going to die. A person with influence is responsible for how their words affect others. We don't think of it that way, do we? A lot of people of influence just spew things out there and let it be. And some people that might be gullible or not as educated to the ways of the world might just suck it up and not realize that what they've been told is not true or not the best for them. Or on social media, how much information have we found out over the years that's pretty much fake? And again, you go back to, think of TikTok back in, February of 25, when it was pretty much going away. And all of a sudden, all these people came out and basically said their content was all lies, was all fake. It was just for show. and some people emulated it. So we have a responsibility. And that's where it really becomes gray in society today, is because a lot of people think that our words don't have consequences and they don't want to be held responsible for saying something. Responsibility grows when we stop asking only, what do I want? And start asking, what has been entrusted to me? What do I want? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Pretty selfish, pretty narcissistic. But when you start thinking about what has been entrusted to me, it's like, okay, I need to take care of this, not only perhaps for my benefit, but for somebody else's benefit, like the financial advisor. The more the investment grows, perhaps the greater the commission. Therefore, the people that entrusted their money to me, they're making more money, but I am also, as a financial advisor, getting bigger commissions instead of just sticking it away in the bank and nobody's benefiting from it. So we've talked about what responsibility means. It means ownership. It means reliability. It means accountability. It means stewardship. But why does responsibility matter? That's another important question. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because it's the foundation of maturity. We talk about the foundations of character. Caring, for example, could be one. Trust could be another. Responsibility is another. It shows maturity. Have you ever thought about the foundations of your life? The foundations of your character? Can you name them? What do you live by? Just like a building has to have a foundation. You have to have a foundation for your life. And one of these is responsibility because it shows maturity. Without responsibility, relationships will break down. Workplace becomes chaotic. Families become unstable. Isn't that true? I think that's probably one of the most obvious things that we see is that responsibility will break down families and relationships. Communities will lose trust. People become resentful because dependable people, they'll get tired of carrying irresponsible people. Just kick them to the curb. Responsibility creates order. It will build trust. It will strengthen relationships, and it produces growth. All of that's important in life for us, for community, for society, for success. Irresponsibility creates confusion, suspicion. It damages relationships and produces excuses. When people are responsible, life becomes more stable because others know what to expect from me and I know what to expect from others. So that's why it matters. Even though we may not be perfect, we're dependable. We might not have every answer, but at least we're honest. We may not control the outcome, but we own our part. And that's what makes responsibility powerful. So it's the foundation of maturity, and that's why it matters. It matters because it builds trust. It strengthens relationships. It produces growth. When people are responsible, life becomes more stable because others know what to expect from them. It's not perfect, but dependable. Does not have all the answers, but it's honest. May not control the outcome, but they own their part. And that's why responsibility is powerful. We own the role that we're in and what comes next. It's the bridge between our character and action. And it's the visibility of who we are, of our values. And it's all laid out for everyone to see. So that's why it matters. So what might responsibility look like in real life? Talked about how or what it is and why it matters, but what about in real life? Well, let's see. It's doing the right thing when nobody's applauding. maybe when nobody's looking. It's going to work when you're tired. That's probably a big one for a lot of us, right? Especially if you're in the education world or something that has a lot of demand on your time. You're studying when you'd rather be scrolling. You apologize when your pride wants to defend itself. Again, this is what responsibility looks like in real life. Paying the bills before buying the luxuries. Well, paying the credit card before you hit Amazon. Telling the truth instead of protecting your image. Keeping your promise after the emotion has worn off. Parenting when it's exhausting. Leading without abusing power. Admitting I need help before things fall apart. And changing behavior and not just saying my bad. See, a lot of people, oh, my bad, and then they continue their behavior. Or they apologize, I'm sorry, but they continue their behavior. We see that in extreme situations such as domestic violence. Somebody beats up somebody else. I'm sorry. Never do it again, but then they do it again. Now, that's an extreme example that might not be applicable to you. But what about other things? Yeah, I'll get it done. Yeah, I'll take the trash out. Yeah, I'll do the laundry. Yeah, I'll show up on time. But then you don't. It's the little things. So, steps that we can take to improve responsibility. Okay, how is your responsibility level? Is it high? Is it low? Do you feel that you're responsible? Well, let's tell the truth about ourselves right about now. How about that? So, step one is telling the truth about yourself. It begins with honesty. If you can't be honest with yourself about how responsible you are or lack of responsibility, or perhaps you're somewhere in the middle of way responsible to no responsibility. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle, and maybe your meter goes back and forth depending upon the day. But again, just be honest about it. You can't improve what you deny. If you deny that you have a problem with responsibility, you're never going to be able to fix it, or anything else for that matter. Many people are not irresponsible because they're incapable of it. They're just irresponsible because they have become skilled at self-deception. You're irresponsible because you've trained yourself to be irresponsible. And that's it. What do you mean? Well, you say, I forgot, when you didn't prioritize it. Students, I forgot my homework. Did you forget it, or did you just not do it because you were too busy scrolling or doing other things? I did not have time, but instead you gave your time to something else. Did you get that thing done? I didn't have the time. Well, you sure? Because I saw you upload 4 or 5, 6 social media posts. I think one of the best lines I've ever heard, or sayings or quotes or whatever, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done. And that's so true, isn't it? If it wasn't for the last minute, a lot of things would not get done because we wait to the last minute and then we cram. Now, I'm not saying it's good, like the finished product is good or anything. It's just completed. But how well is it completed should be the next question. Maybe people say, that's just how I am, when instead you're really not committed to changing. They made me react that way, when you really need better self-control. And see, these are the things that you have to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. It's not my fault. Well, you're still a part of it. Did you own the part that you were at fault with? In order to have growth, you need to stop protecting the excuses and start facing the pattern. Again, let's go to the extreme. An alcoholic doesn't have a problem, doesn't have a problem drinking, makes excuses for being late, for spending the money, for going to the bar, all these things. And they continue with their excuses because they're protecting the excuse and they're not facing the pattern of going to the bar after work all the time. A powerful question is, what part of this is mine to own? If you can answer that question And if you can live that, then your responsibility will be high on the responsibility meter, and you'll get a lot of respect for that. When you ask yourself, what part of this is mine? Instead of who else messed up? Or let's see, how can I explain this away? How do I avoid consequences? Sometimes, the consequences might not be as bad as what we think. And then we try to get out of it. Maybe we lie. Maybe we try to explain it away. Maybe we blame somebody else. We don't own it. And then when the truth finally comes out, the consequences are way worse than if we had just said, yeah, I messed up. I own it. Because remember, what part belongs to me is a question that can change your life. What part belongs to me, not only will you learn from it, if you want to, I should say, but you can learn from it, you can make changes, and then you become more trustworthy, and all the things we've been talking about fall into place. And now, even though you've made mistakes, and even though you may not be 100%, because again, we're not talking about perfection, whoever's in charge, the boss, the leader, whomever, will look at you as someone that is, oh, I can entrust this to this person, whether it's responsibility, whether it's something tangible, whatever it is, because you're owning up to whatever it is that your role in that situation is. You're owning your role and what comes next. Traffic accident. What was your part in it? Well, maybe you had no part, but maybe were you speeding? Just another example. So not only are we wanting to tell the truth when it comes to how can we improve responsibility, the steps we can take to improve responsibility. The first step is to tell the truth. The second step is to keep smaller promises. You want to be entrusted with a big responsibility? That's great. But what about the little things? You're careless with small responsibilities. That's not with my time. I'm bigger than that. A responsible person will look at the small and the large responsibilities and treat them the same. It's important. People want the promotion, but they can't show up on time. They want deeper relationships, but you can't communicate honestly with that other person. You want financial freedom, but you don't track your spending, you don't save, you don't do the steps that are required for you to have some financial freedom. You want respect, but you don't keep your word. One of the biggest ways you can earn respect, gain respect, is to just keep your word. Simple as that. People want influence, but they don't want to practice discipline. You see, responsibility is built through small promises kept consistently. If you own up to your part in whatever it is, just in life in general right now, little side note, if you own up to whatever it is and tell the truth, be honest, and then keep your small promises consistent, that right there will get you a long ways in life. You might not have the skill, you might not have the education, you might not have the ability so much, but if you're owning your part and what comes next, if you are basically honest about the things that we're talking about, I'm talking about to yourself too. You're honest to yourself, not just out to other people. You're honest about having the big responsibilities and taking care of them, the small responsibilities and taking care of them. But keeping your word consistently over and over and over again, that is going to get your places in life. I remember one time in high school, I was, somebody invited me to come over for the night. It's after a basketball game, high school basketball game. I said a word, younger classman. I think I was a junior. This guy was a sophomore. And then somebody else came up to me and said, hey, there's a big party going on. Why don't you come? And I was tempted. It was tempted to be like, okay, blow this person off, make up some lame excuse. and then go to the party. And then, of course, the aftermath would have been people would be talking about the party on Monday. Not that I was a big party goer, but they'd be talking about it, and he would probably hear about it, and it'd be devastating. So I'm like, nah, I got plans. So went, spent the night at this guy's house. I was kind of glad I did because they had some certain things planned. First of all, it was fun. It turned out to be a pretty good time. Did it a couple times after that, and then summer came, and it was things kind of end then. But we had a lot of fun. Did a lot of things, and actually enjoyed my time hanging out with him and his family. But the lesson learned, and then the party turned out to be a tank, anyways. I got not broken up by police, but people. It was just boring, I guess. It just kind of sucked. And so, anyways, so I made a good decision, and I ran it by my parents, and they were like, "No, you should really do this. It's your choice, but this is what you should really do." So I got sound advice, sound counsel, and I was glad I did it. But I kept my word. John Wooden, as the story goes, he was in talks. I believe it's Minnesota, although I've heard two versions of the story. I've heard Minnesota and I've heard Purdue. But he was in talks with a college in the Midwest to coach basketball. That team or that college was going to get back to him in a day or two, a certain day. Well, a couple days went by. UCLA reached out to him, and he accepted the job at UCLA, thinking that this other college wasn't going to hire him. Well, what had happened in the meantime, even though John Wooden wanted to go to this other school, he accepted the UCLA gig. A big snowstorm went through the area and knocked out the phones, so the college could not call him. By the time they reestablished the phones and they called him, John Wooden, to offer him the job, John Wooden accepted the UCLA job. And because of his word, he took the UCLA job. So what happened in Westward, minus Sam Mitchell, may have happened in Minnesota or perhaps Purdue, whatever it was, but it ended up happening at UCLA. He kept his promise. And maybe with divine intervention, he was rewarded for that. But responsibility is built through small promises kept consistently. So start small. Make your bed. Return a message. Be on time. Finish one task. Pay one bill. Clean one space. Prepare before meeting. Make sure you have your ducks in a row. Write down what you said and do it. Follow through without being reminded. If you really want to see what completing tasks and being consistent, if you have a bunch of credit cards and maybe your finances and your credit's kind of a wreck, whatever, if you realize that you just pay one bill, just get one bill paid off. Maybe it's a smaller credit card. And then maybe your next one, you're just making regular payments. Okay. If you get one credit card paid off through consistent payments, you'll see a dramatic difference in your financial history, depending upon how wrecked it is or not. But sometimes just in the financial world, just a little thing that you do can have a big impact when it seems like, oh man, my credit score is bad, my finances are bad, this is all bad. You take one little step, and sometimes that's where you can see a huge dramatic change. Make your bed. I don't make my bed, so you can do that. But there are people that say there's a great speech. I've used it before on the podcast, an admiral at a graduation speech, talk about making your bed, because if you get up and you make your bed, if the rest of the day goes to pot and you come back home, at least you've accomplished one thing that day, and that was making your bed. I choose to accomplish one thing that's not making the bed, but that's my choice. So follow through without being reminded. Small responsibility builds the muscle for larger responsibility. If you cannot be faithful with small things, the big things will expose you. That's pretty powerful. If you cannot be faithful with the small things, the big things will expose you. You're not ready for it. You're not ready for the big things if you can't handle the little things. Step 3, stop blaming as a first response. So the first step on how we can improve responsibility is to tell yourself the truth, and then to keep smaller promises. And then it's stop blaming as a first response. Blame is one of the greatest enemies of responsibility. We all blame, everybody blames. It's the blame game. Blame may feel good in the moment because it protects your ego, your pride, who you are, but it steals your power. When everything is someone else's fault, you have no reason to grow. You become stuck, waiting for everyone else to change before you take action. Responsible people do not ignore what others did. They simply refuse to use other people's failures as an excuse to avoid their own growth. Don't you want to grow in life? Don't you want to become a better person? Take responsibility. Own it. Don't blame it. Here's a responsible mindset. Okay, a responsible mindset says that they may have been wrong, but how did I respond? That situation was unfair, but what can I do now? I was hurt, but how do I heal instead of harming others? I was not taught this, but how can I learn it now? Responsibility gives you power because it brings your attention back to what you can control. I would tell my students in the radio broadcasting classes that I taught is that if you went to an interview and they asked you, do you know how to operate some piece of equipment or do something? Never just say no, because you might not know their specific way of doing something or that specific piece of equipment, but you've probably learned something very similar, whether in the classes I taught, because I would go over everything pretty much that they needed to know to get that entry level job based on the limitations, though, of what the college campus radio station had, obviously. But they would be taught it either in theory or in practice. So I'd tell them, don't say no. Just say, well, you know what? We've gone over something very similar. So maybe I just need you to train me in the way you do things here, because it might be a little different than when I did things at the college or in my last job or whatever it is. So don't just outright say no, because you may know something and you'd be like, oh, that's right. Okay, I know how to do this. Or yeah, we did something very similar. It was just a different program, a different software, but it's very similar. So don't just outright say no. Say, you know what? We've done something similar. If you can just, I probably just need a quick refresher on the way you guys do things, because it became an honest thing, an honest way of, I was not taught this, but I can learn it now scenario. Do you know how to do this? Well, I mean, I was kind of taught this other way of how you're asking me. So maybe if you just give me a refresher, I can learn it now. I can learn it now. Don't just say no. Or don't be the person that says, no, I don't want to. Because that's another way to find yourself out the door. I was not taught this, but I can learn it now. So stop blaming as a first response. Step 5, learn to apologize correctly. Not just apologize, my bad. A responsible apology does not manipulate. It does not minimize or shift blame. A responsible apology does not manipulate, minimize, or shift blame. Irresponsible apology sounds like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry, but you also did this. I already said I'm sorry. Move on. I didn't mean it like that. You shouldn't be upset. I guess I'm just a terrible person then. Because you see, those aren't true apologies. Those are defense mechanisms. So make your apologies sound sincere. A responsible apology, I was wrong, and I understand how that affects you. I should not have said that or done that. I take responsibility for my part. I'm sorry. Here's what I will do differently. The strongest apology is changed behavior. I apologize. I understand that hurts you. You don't like that. I'll change. Responsibility is not proven by how emotional your apology is. It's proven by whether your behavior becomes more trustworthy. We see people all the time get on there and they're boo-hooing about something they did and they apologize for it. Does their behavior change? If it doesn't, then they were just sorry they got caught, as opposed to being sorry for what they did. Another step is to accept consequences without playing the victim. One of the clearest signs of responsibility is the ability to accept consequences. Consequences are not always cruelty. Sometimes they're just the reality of things that happen. So accepting consequences without playing the victim, another sign of maturity. Another step could be ask for feedback. Responsible people are willing to be corrected. This doesn't mean that you have to accept every criticism that comes your way as being true or factual, but you're open enough to ask. Where do I need to grow? Do I follow through well? Is there something I keep doing that affects others? Am I dependable? Do I make excuses? Feedback can be uncomfortable because it threatens the version of ourselves we prefer to believe. But responsibility requires courage to see what others experience from us, not just what we intend. And then finally, how can we model responsibility? Well, we can model responsibility by keeping our word, by admitting mistakes, by refusing excuses, by preparing well, by controlling our reactions. Responsibility requires both grace and truth. If you think about it, grace says you're not beyond help. Truth says you cannot keep living this way. So you're going to refuse excuses. You're going to prepare well. Preparation is a form of responsibility. Responsibility says, I will not make my lack of preparation become everyone else's emergency. Controlling your reaction, emotional responsibility. And that also goes for whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in the workplace, family. But one of the things that I thought was a big thing about all of this is the maturity. We talked about maturity, right? Growing up. When you refuse to grow up, it's irresponsible. Some irresponsibility is immaturity that has gone unchallenged way too long. It's wanting adult privileges without adult discipline. So again, maturity, responsibility, it's owning the role that you have and what comes next. All right? It's the bridge between our character and our action, and it's our values that become visible. It's maturity. It's growing up in all facets of life. And that's really what responsibility is about. And you can have responsibility in relationships. You can have responsibility in the work. You can have responsibility as a leader in the community, as a coach, as a teacher, whatever your profession might be. You can have responsibility. And the role of responsibility might change or look a little bit different depending upon what role you're undertaking. Because we might have different roles. We're a teacher, we're a parent, we're a coach, we're a mentor, we're a tutor, just in the academic world. And each one of those roles might take on different things. A parent, same thing. In the workplace, same thing. A friend, same thing. But keep this in mind as we wrap things up. Think about responsibility and character. Responsibility is deeply connected to character because it reveals what kind of person you are when pressure comes. Pressure reveals whether you tell the truth. Conflict reveals whether you own your own behavior. Commitment reveals whether your word matters. Failure reveals whether you learn or blame. Power reveals whether you serve or exploit. Success reveals whether you remain humble. Mistakes reveal whether you repair or hide. And that's responsibility and character. So what's your responsibility? What's your character? Are you the one that is merging the two together? Do people see your character in action? Without action, they probably won't know what your character is. Without character, you can't have values. Your values don't become visible. So again, when it comes to responsibility, it is you owning your part in whatever it is that took place, in whatever it is, whatever role, whatever. Own it and what comes next. It's the bridge between your character and actions, and then your actions will show your values in a visual way. And then people will judge whether or not you are a responsible person. Keep your word. Small promises, keep them consistently. Honesty, grow up, and think of the character component, responsibility and character, and you will find yourself growing in this area. This is Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. Check out our website, radiowarp.com. That's radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com. You can click on the Two Steps Ahead podcast logo. Past shows will pop up in video form. You can also click the banner that goes across the page. I believe it's in green. That will take you to our audio account that lists all the podcasts in audio form, because we do both video and audio form. You can download those and take them with you on the go. You can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just do an internet search of TWO, Two Steps Ahead Podcast. We pop up. Hey Siri, hey Google, hey Alexa, play TWO, Two Steps Ahead Podcast. It pops up. You can, again, internet search, listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube, Rumble. Pretty easy to find. All over social media. Facebook, you've got TikTok. I don't dance, just clips of the show and things like that. You've got Instagram. So we're all over social media. It's pretty easy to find. We have an email, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com, TWO, stepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and reach out. Questions, comments, say hi, whatever it is. I'm here for you. If I can't help you, I will definitely find somebody that can, so you don't have to go alone. That's TWO, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. So pretty easy to find. Responsibility. What does it look like? Be honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you probably will find room to grow. You find room to grow, your character grows, become more trustworthy, you become more mature, and perhaps more opportunities will open for you to grow in life, and the reward grows as well. Two Steps Ahead podcast. Take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Hey, thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. Until next time, God bless.